Today, our channel will share a true story that took place in a small village in Thailand, allowing our audience to listen in. Nestled among expansive mountains and dense forests, and often shrouded in mist, lies a charming village near the Thai border, home to a beautiful young girl named Mina. Her face resembles that of delicate egg with luminous, porcelain-like skin that shines like the moon. Her long, dark, almond-shaped eyes are filled with tenderness and compassion. Mina's beauty is most pronounced when she performs the traditional Thai dance known as Nora. As she dances, she transforms into a celestial being, her grace and charm captivating all who watch. In the midst of this performance, her movements are effortless, embodying the traditional dance forms with a poise that holds the attention of the villagers. As if enchanted by a mystical force, the villagers regard her as the true embodiment of the Nora dance, a revered cultural treasure that had been passed down through generations. On a full moon night, the villagers gather in the village square to witness Mina and her troupe perform the enchanted Nora dance. Dressed in a splendid traditional costume adorned with glimmering jewelry, she became the focal point of the celebration, while the melodies of traditional music floated through the air. Her presence was radiant and serene, and as she began to dance, she moved gracefully, captivating the audience with her charm. The villagers expressed their delight with every glance at her captivating performance and thrilled by her enchanting movements that seemed to lift the entire village into a state of bliss. However, in the midst of this festive atmosphere, the sudden sound of gunfire shattered their tranquility. A surge of terror swept through the audience, their screams echoing throughout the square. Armed assailants crashed into the celebration, instantly obliterating the joyous ambience of the traditional music and dance. Gunmen ruthlessly targeted the villagers, mercilessly shooting at those who attempted to defend themselves. Many were trapped, unable to escape the onslaught, and the village experienced a brutal massacre as the armed intruders wreaked havoc. In the chaos, some villagers fled in terror, while the once idyllic setting transformed into a scene of despair and pandemonium. Mina, perched on the stage, witnessed the horrific events unfolding before her eyes. Overwhelmed with fear, she sat frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks as she realized the tragedy befalling her community. "Mina, sweetheart, run!" her father called out anxiously as he drew his small knife. At that moment, the leader of the assailants fixed his penetrating gaze on Mina and said, laughing, "With beauty like yours, it's certain you fetch a high price. Stay away from my daughter, you lowly scum!" Her father shouted back, "Why don't you calm down a bit? Otherwise, I'll have to put a bullet in your father right here." The assailant leader replied, his eyes narrowing as he fixed his gaze on Mina, implying a sinister intent. With no other options left and tears streaming down her face, Mina made the heartbreaking decision to comply with the assailant leader, hoping to spare her father from harm. The moment she submitted, the leader roughly grabbed her and dragged her toward a waiting cart at the edge of the village. The gang, following closely behind, retreated from the village with Mina, their laughter echoing as they vanished into the surrounding woods. As the group of assailants made their way through the forest, the trees suddenly erupted with white mist, enveloping the entire area. At that moment, the enchanting strains of traditional Nora music filled the air, seemingly from nowhere. This unexpected beauty caused a chilling fear to grip even the most hardened of the assailants, who were used to shedding blood without remorse. The leader of the assailants, startled, turned his gaze nervously to the left, feeling as though something unseen was encircling their group. "Who's there? If you have any guts, show yourself!" the leader challenged, his voice echoing in the stillness. The thick mist hung heavily in the air, making it impossible to see anything beyond the immediate surroundings. Frustration boiled within the leader as he scanned the area, anger directed at whatever hidden presence seemed to be watching them. Just then, a silhouette emerged from the mist. A figure adorned in the dazzling traditional Nora costume, long black hair cascading down, seemingly glowing against the dense white haze. This apparition appeared as a ghostly reflection, and it held the assailants' attention, locking eyes with them. Gradually, this figure became more distinct, revealing a hauntingly beautiful presence, and began to perform the traditional Nora dance, evoking a sense of fearsome dread within the hearts of the assailants. The dancer slowly arched her back and lifted her head, casting an eerie yet mesmerizing look as the enchanting music echoed around them. The mist thickened further, heightening the atmosphere of dread and causing the entire group of assailants to tremble in fear. The Nora dancer began to chant ancient words that the attackers could not comprehend, resonating with a powerful, otherworldly quality. Her traditional jewelry shimmered and danced softly, casting an enchanting glow that contrasted sharply with the oppressive atmosphere. Despite the leader's attempts to rally his men, they were gripped by a palpable terror, sensing an unseen presence lurking in the shadows. Two members of the gang, paralyzed by fear, attempted to flee from the suffocating mist, but stumbled and fell heavily to the ground, their escape thwarted. In the midst of their panic, they caught sight of the dancer standing before them, frozen in place, evoking a primal fear that rendered them unable to act. The dancer's expression was one of fierce intensity, her white eyes burning with an ethereal light that seemed poised to ensnare their very souls. The Nora dancer, with a blend of satisfaction and terror, released a hunting wail as she thrust her elongated, slender fingers into one of the assailants, causing his anguished cries to echo throughout the surrounding area. Witnessing his camera's fate, another assailant hastily drew his weapon, attempting to strike down the dancer. However, with a swift motion, she deflected the dagger from his grasp, and applying one hand as a feint, the Nora dancer cleverly maneuvered to ensnare the attacker's neck with both hands, causing his body to rise involuntarily into the air. The assailant gradually lost consciousness, and the dancer swiftly cast him aside. Next, she approached another attacker, seated in fear, and mercilessly yanked his head back, leaving him stunned. When he finally regained his senses, the horror of his situation washed over him, compelling him to flee into the shadows in a panic rush. Seizing this unexpected opportunity, the leader of the attackers abandoned his men and bolted away with the cart containing Mina. However, the path he took was obscured by an encroaching veil of mist that enveloped him, leading him back to the very spot from which he had tried to escape. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through, and he began to hear the haunting melodies of the Nora's dance, gradually revealing her form as she drew nearer. With nowhere to turn, he leaped from his horse and began firing his pistol at the dancer. Yet, not a single bullet found its mark, as the projectiles fell harmlessly away, eventually exhausting his ammunition. In the ensuing chaos, the dancer retaliated, ensnaring the leader in a vice-like grip. With a calculated thrust, she twisted his body backward, enacting the very terror she had initially instilled. Her feet rose and fell with precise determination as she pulled his head back, shattering his spine until he lay lifeless on the ground. In that moment, while trapped in the cart, Mina bore witness to the unfolding carnage, her heart racing in fear as she watched the Nora dancer, calm and composed, flash her a smile before fading into a chilly mist. The following morning, a group of villagers, armed with rifles to track the assailants, ventured into the forest and stumbled upon the remnants of the assailants' group. Their bodies grotesquely twisted and lifeless, littered along the path like broken dolls. Upon witnessing this scene, the villagers immediately understood that it signified the retribution that the ancient guardians had exacted upon the group of assailants. They discovered Mina, who had been trapped in the cart, and after liberating her from her bonds, they brought her back to the village safe and sound. Once they returned, and as Mina's mental state began to stabilize, She recounted the harrowing experiences she had endured to her fellow villagers. After listening to her account, they believed that the fearsome spirits of the ancestral guardians of the Nora tradition had protected their rightful heir. From that day forward, Nina and the villagers began to venerate the ancient spirits of the Nora tradition, expressing their gratitude for the protection bestowed upon their village. As years passed, Mina became a master teacher in the Nora dance, dedicating herself to imparting the rich heritage of this ancient culture. The terrifying events of that fateful night became a narrative or legend, transforming into a significant chapter in the annals of the village and the surrounding areas, ensuring that no further assailants would dare approach. Thus, we will pause here regarding the awe-inspiring tales of the traditional dancer. If you are eager to hear more captivating stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. After listening to this account, we invite you to comment on what thoughts or feelings it has stirred within you.